Okay, now I'd like you to meet, her name is Vedlina Tereskina. Isn't that a wonderful name? Actually, she's a young lady from Russia, and she started, probably was is the first crowdfunding site in Russia. And listen to this, she calls it for social enterprises. Right, you know, social, so she's trying to do good social work in Russia. And when I grew up, like in the 50s and 60s, I thought Russia was the biggest socialist country in the world. And why do they need more social programs? But they do. We're all trying to help each other. And so her website is really aimed at Russians and people outside of Russia who are interested in helping the country, because apparently the big cities or some of the, you know, the regions are doing well, others are not well. So they're like programs where farmers are teaching orphanage kids how to farm and support themselves and things like that, but also for entrepreneuring, IT companies. And so you have an interest in Russia, or you want to know how crowdfunding starts in a country like Russia. This is a lady who's starting it. So watch this and learn about all this stuff. You have to learn to grow. So start learning. She's going to teach you a lot. Okay, and we have the beautiful look at, I'm screwed it up already. Vedlina Tereskina. It's close enough for Skype, all right. And you have this wonderful organization called Rusini.org. It's a Russian crowdfunding source to help social and creative projects in Russia to be financed by people in Russia and Russians outside of Russia, right?
Exactly.
And you're a student working on your PhD, but this seems to be the love of your life and an important thing for people in Russia. Are you the first crowdfunding site in Russia?
We were one of the first, yes.
Really? Well, good for you. High five from across the world here. Well, that's terrific. So now, but you have an interesting thing. You should say that in Russia, the problem is trust. Like a lot of people don't trust organizations, I guess, and things like that. So your crowdfunding site builds up the trust with people. How does that work?
Exactly. We have a control mechanism. So the first project you can create on the platform is limited to 1,000 euros. After that, basically they have to report on all the money they got, they spent, and only then they can get a high amount of money.
I see. So I mean, the projects are social, responsible kind of projects, you know, education for kids and things like that, right? And they go on your site, and other Russians outside of the country or actually a non-Russian could really contribute too, right?
As well, yes.
You'll take anybody's money. You don't care. What happened to that idealism? And so, but then their first project on the site is limited to 1,000 euros. Well, that's wonderful, and that builds up trust. And then, and then they have to report back how they spent the money, and then you see.
And only after that they can get a 2,000 euros, for example, or 3,000 euros. So
I see, and then it'll grow from there. Oh, well, that's a very sensible and smart thing to do. And to me, as I mentioned earlier, it's sort of like the first date is just having coffee before you go to dinner and a movie.
From there, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's a wonderful thing to have. And so what kind of projects are you getting now?
We have mostly social enterprises, which are working with children or environmental issues, or different kind of issues. And then we have creative projects, so movies and music as well, and then we have startups as well.
Oh, so you have entrepreneur startup businesses, yeah? What kind of businesses are they starting in Europe or in Russia? Is it like IT businesses, or is it dry cleaners, or what?
Mostly IT businesses, because people are more aware than of crowdfunding and that it exists. So not yet. It's went through to like average business, basically. Right,
I see. So now you're an IT business. So I could help somebody start an IT business, and then is it like other, because a lot of your site is in Russian, it was a little difficult, so that's why it's really aimed at Russians outside of Russia. But I guess we have, at least in the United States, so many people that study the language and probably have a simpatico with the culture and would be interested in investing too, which is good to have. But how about a social social enterprise. An example. What would a social enterprise do in Russia?
Lots of stuff. They work with disabled people, and they work with children a lot with disadvantaged backgrounds. There's one very good example: a farmer who takes children from orphanage homes and he teaches them to grow stuff.
Really?
So they can sell it then after, and
they can feed themselves.
And he can then feed them and educate them further.
Wow.
So there are a few good examples of working with children. Actually.
Wow. So so he teaches children how to grow food, and they could sell their product and learn an income for themselves and learn how to feed themselves. I mean, that's a growing business here in the United States. Locally grown food is booming in our country, and organic farming, that's probably natural to you guys over there, but here,
no, but it's coming back a bit. Yeah.
Right, it's all that kind of thing. Wow. And so people, it works like a normal site that you find projects you're interested in investing in, and you commit X number of dollars. And do they have, like here when you pledge the money, they give t-shirts or things like that. Do you have the same kind of thing?
Yeah, they get a small reward basically.
I see.
For example, the children can draw something from them, so something symbolic. Or they get the tickets for the show or whatever. Oh,
I see. So it's not all nested dolls I'll get or something like that, right? I'm sorry to be so tacky American. Illiterate in other people's culture is really what it boils down to. That's why very few people in the United States have passports. I mean, like 10-15%. Nobody travels in this country. We think the whole world is like us, yeah. And that's what's so great about the internet. Now we could learn about, crowdfunding in Russia, and that you have problems just like we do. And you have poor people like we do who need help. And problems that have to be solved, and you're there to help them. And that's so wonderful. And it's so funny when you said earlier that there's not many social organizations in Russia. And I was thinking, God, that's the first thing I knew about Russia was being socialist. The biggest socialist country in the world, and they have no social enterprises. So you're here to solve that problem.
Starting now, yeah. No, one big difference is basically that there are many regional differences within Russia. So it's not like in the US, people don't help everybody.
I see.
That's what we're trying to do as well. We specialize in regions. So we try to get projects which are local, to get supported by local people.
No people, yeah.
That's as well how you get the trust, because they can see that something happened.
Right.
They can reinvest basically again.
Don't worry about Big Brother Washington and Moscow, right?
That's what we're trying to do, yes.
Yeah.
The local regions, because that's where the problems are, and there are not so many problems in Moscow.
Right.
There as well.
Right, different kind.
Regions,
yeah. Well, that sounds like us. I mean, back on the States, we're trying to local, and that's what crowdfunding does for us, local people helping solving local problems. So we are very much alike. Everybody is. We're all just struggling to survive, and it's nice to have an organization like you that know that people in Russia have the same problems we do. And the website is Rusini, R-U-S-I-N-I, and that means Russia. What is that short for?
Russian Initiatives.
Russia Initiative. Oh, wonderful for you being the Russian that's doing the Russian Initiative and making Russia socialized. I understand. That's cute. Well, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, and I wish you the best. And it's nice to have young people like you trying to solve problems in the world, and allowing me in America to talk to you and share that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
See? So if you know somebody's Russian, and wants to help the old country, the mother country or whatever, pass the link along. It's going to help her. And you see that she's really trying to do good in the world. Help her her country, to develop more. I mean, we all have problems, whether it's Russia or the United States or whatever, and we all need help. So, and we all have to help each other. And so if you're interested in Russia, this is a way to learn. Keep learning. That's what's neat in life. Keep learning, you keep growing. Keep growing till you die.